For one day, Oneil Cruz showed us what was possible. I'll tell you next what the Pirates need to do to get more out of him consistently.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Pirates your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. We spend a lot of time talking about what Oneil Cruz can't do. And maybe for some of us, it turns into more what he should be doing. But tonight was a perfect example of what Oneil Cruz can be for this team and this city. The Pirates need to help bring that out of him more. There's a lot of things that I think Oneil Cruz is and isn't. But I'll say at his age, and as long as this development process has been going on with this organization, with this young man, if you think about how long we've been looking forward to him being a Pittsburgh Pirate and doing the magical things we supposed he could do, isn't it time that we kind of just accept what he is right now and just let him loose? I mean, I think Oneil Cruz has 30-30 potential. I don't think he has 30-30 potential unless the Pirates stop trying to manufacture him into more than the player he is. I think he's a guy that needs to be able to free swing a little bit, needs to be a little bit more creative with what is okay for him to take a hack at. There are hitters like that, you know. Sometimes it does make him look bad. Sometimes he is going to have an ugly strikeout, but sometimes he's going to golf one out of this ballpark too. Sometimes he's going to accidentally take a 4-iron shot out to left field. I think it's important that the Pirates maybe kind of relax on some of the efforts they've made to get him to try to hit the ball opposite field all the time. It helps. I want him to have it in his toolkit. You know, I want him to be able to pull it out of his back pocket when he has 2 strikes. So I'm not saying it's useless to teach him it or useless to see if he could do it. But what I see mostly against Oneil Cruz, with lefties in particular, is when he's facing them, he's either really, really in his head and self-conscious about everything they're going to throw away to him, or he acts like he's shocked that it happens, right? And I think it depends on the scouting report. They kind of tell him like, hey, this guy likes to bust you up inside, you know, pay attention to that. And then the scouting report on Cruz is, well, don't do that with him. Throw it away. I think the Pirates kind of miss the boat sometimes on that scouting report, and they end up almost confusing the player a little bit about what they should be looking for. They tend to not take in their own tendencies often enough when they're trying to script a plan, I think. Regardless, to make the most of Oneil Cruz, to me, you've got to let him just be at the plate. Obviously, you don't want him like swinging out of his shoes constantly. You don't want him racking up 200 strikeouts, but I think he's kind of got that bug out of him already. He's pretty good at putting wood on the ball a lot of the time. I think let's just loosen the reins a little more, because ultimately with the way this team's built, Oneil Cruz could turn out to be a 280 hitter and hit 20 home runs, and I'm not 100% sure that's the Oneil Cruz they need. It's still a good player, but I think the Oneil Cruz they need is an Oneil Cruz that's going to put the ball over the wall a lot more. I need to see balls flying over that Clemente wall from him. This team needs power from somewhere. It's not his fault he doesn't have protection in the lineup. It's not his fault that there aren't guys on base an awful lot of the time. It's not his fault that he has to wait for a special circumstances like a bases loaded incident to to have an opportunity to do something because they have no choice but to pitch to you. But when he does get those opportunities, Oneil Cruz shows you how good he could be. It was such a majestic blast. Another fun thing that Oneil Cruz did in this game, I thought, he really has bonded in some way, shape, or form with Tommy Pham. They at least joke around. Well, there was a benches clearing faux brawl in the middle of this one. I have no doubt that Jorge Lopez actually threw at Andrew McCutchen, but the umpires agreed, and that's really what's important. The bench is cleared, including the bullpens. It was a nonsense baseball fight, and I mean fight. Those of you that are listening, I'm using the fingers. I promise. I'm quoting in the air that it was a fight. No swings were exchanged. It was funny how Tommy Pham almost seeked out Oneil Cruz to be held back. He made it look like the biggest guy on the team had to be the one to hold him back from fighting, and it was hilarious. That said, Kutch really was fired up. I think there's a difference between what happened with Mitch Keller in the last game and what happened in this game. First of all, they had already gotten their revenge earlier on Brian Reynolds. They had hit Triolo. I think that was by accident. But when Andrew McCutchen came up, this wasn't a tailing fastball. This was a heater, like a heat-seeking missile right for his dome. And Kutch got out of the way. We've seen Andrew McCutchen on more than one occasion in his Pittsburgh Pirates career get hurt on a play just like that, trying to avoid getting hit with a baseball. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but sometimes, and you don't want him to get hit in the head, obviously, but there are times when Kutch works so hard to avoid getting hit with a pitch that he actually will hurt something. I think it was last year he ended up falling on his knee or his elbow, and it was sore for like 3 weeks or something from doing it. Didn't look like he was worse for wear this time, and lucky he didn't get hit in the head because it was going right for him. Again, though, this wasn't a two-seam. This was deemed to be a purposeful beam pitch. There's a little bit of history there. Kutch hit a home run off of them in a big game at Chicago last year. I can't imagine these two non-playoff teams with journeyman players, garnered that kind of ill will. And it didn't really look like Kutch showboated the home run when they showed the highlight on the broadcast tonight. But regardless, Oneil Cruz did one last thing I want to talk about before I wrap up this segment and move on to our next subject. Oneil Cruz, at the end of the game, gave his hat to a young fan sitting in the front row. And I thought, maybe he does this stuff all the time. I don't know. But it was the first time that I saw the cameras catch it, and it was the first time I noticed it for sure. So when I see things like that, it gives me some more hope, because I felt like lately, at least like the end of last year and so far kind of the beginning of this year, I've kind of felt Oneil Cruz pulling back a little bit from the fans. He's been a little bit less willing to step up to the fence line necessarily in spring training. He does it, of course, but he doesn't do it as often as he used to. And he used to just make himself a little bit more available. He was really coming along with English too. I would really like to see him come out of his shell and try to use it a little bit more. Like, at least with the fans, just give them a goodbye message after you get interviewed post game or something. You don't have to do your whole interview in it. I certainly wouldn't want to try to do that in my second language. But I think those sorts of things really go a long way with kind of connecting to the fan base. I think Oneil Cruz gets a lot of hate that he doesn't deserve. There's a lot of things that happen with him that aren't his fault. There's a lot of things he just hasn't been taught to do. There's a lot of things that I'm not sure he'll ever be good at, so maybe we should stop expecting him to be. Let's take a quick second here and think about Bailey Falter, because this grand slam could have been a drop of water in a bucket if Bailey Falter didn't do what he did. And I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. Play high quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of the console. Already have a console? A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your, or I guess your kids' games wherever you plug in. I like to take it in hotels when I travel for work. I think it's much more portable, a lot of fun to have. I like to wind down playing some video games at night. It's not like you can ship a console, and all the handheld options out there, they don't cut it. So I think it's a great option. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube second generation. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of the ballpark food. And if you're looking to go last minute, Gametime makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as Gametime gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On, and as the Pirates regular season is coming up, I can count on them to help grab tickets that meet my needs. In fact, my favorite time to use it is when I'm traveling. I just used it last year when I went to a San Francisco Giants game in San Francisco. It was a last minute idea, and lo and behold, I got some nice, really affordable tickets and a great seat at a ballpark wasn't all that familiar with before. So really, really good service. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, comment down beneath. I'm going to actually ask you a question here that I really want to see in the comments a lot. Bailey Falter might be the most underappreciated player on this team. He's bloody consistent, people. Would I be out of line in saying he's the best multi-season lefty they've had since Liriano? Tell me in the comments. It's something I'm kind of toying around with. He's been here a couple years now. And I think it's fair to say that outside of Liriano, he's probably the best lefty they've had starting, who's been here for multiple seasons. That's saying something, man. I mean, because like you think about all the lefties they've signed, like Quintana and Andrew Heaney and Anderson. I mean, and Rich Hill. They've had a cavalcade of them every single year of this thing. Bailey Falter, they went out and acquired. Remember, they traded Castro for him, and it was a kind of a blip of a trade. It actually smelled of desperation because they were so short in the rotation that they really needed help, and he's really worked out. Great pickup. and we don't give him enough credit for picking him up. Bailey Falter's been the story of consistency. He really has. And this year, he's added a new trick to his bag, something cool that he's never really had in his bag of tricks before. He's always had that extension, but now he's doing something with whiff percentage. His whiff percentage right now is in the 74th percentile for the league. He's never had that. It's very early to like be crowing about it, but he does seem to have sacrificed a little bit of his walk percentage for it. In 2024, you're talking about he was in the 8th percentile for whiff, and he had a pretty good season. In 2023, the 4th percentile for whiff. So it's a big jump to get to 74, and he really has been missing a lot more bats. I'm not 100% sure what the explanation for that is. The extension seems to be the same, and he does, if he gets whiffs, seems to be with that fastball. But man, it's more the breaking stuff that he's really getting whiffs on. He's still not getting guys to chase, so we're talking about like in zone type stuff here. That's pretty interesting, actually. It's been a good start for Bailey. He hasn't had the cleanest of starts, but he's done all right. I think right now you're looking at a little under 5 ERA. A lot of the reason for that was a really rough outing that he had early on against the Yankees. I mean, the Yankees roughed him up and everyone. So that kind of inflated his ERA drastically. He had another rough outing in Cincinnati, a short outing where he gave up a few runs. And then, Washington, 7 innings pitched, faces the minimum, only 2 strikeouts. So the strikeouts kind of went backwards. He was really racking up strikeouts early on. And this one, he kind of went back to his bread and butter, sought contact a little bit more often. It really worked for him a lot better. Bailey Falter, to me, is a better pitcher when he's seeking soft contact than when he's seeking strikeouts. That said, if I'm getting, 74th percentile whiff numbers, I might be inclined to go to hunt those strikeouts a little bit more often too. Either way, maybe it's time to stop trying to push Bailey Falter out of this rotation all the time. He is a steadying force. Next game, the Pirates are going to send Andrew Heaney to the mound. Before this season started, I suggested, because Bailey Falter and Andrew Heaney are very similar pitchers and both left-handed, it might be wise to split them up with a righty. Now, I was kind of thinking this is when you had Paul Skeens and Jared Jones penciled in. That's 2 fireballers, and I really would have loved to have broken them up with lefties. I think that would be just a different look for the opposing offenses to see during a series. You'd love to have like somebody like Paul Skeens that could attack you 50 different ways, and then Andrew Heaney comes in and does what he does from the left side, the control, the big breaking pitches, and then you come back with Jones and he's going to fireball you, and then you come back with Bailey Falter, and they could probably pull the same kind of thing off, even if they end up calling up Bubba Chandler sooner than later. Carmen Mlodzinski could fit into that mold as well. Either way, I think it's a good idea for them if they're going to try to mess around with the days off again, like they keep wanting to do. I would like to see them find a way to have it happen in such a way that splits those lefties up. I really think it would be wise to do it. I think it would make series a little bit harder for teams to adjust to. I actually don't think it's fair to whichever lefty's going second, and that's weird to say because Andrew Heaney has been really good. But I would like to see Andrew Heaney not follow up on Bailey Falter. It's basically like a different version of the same arm angles and everything. They're different pitchers, but you just want to keep that approach as varied as possible during a series. I have no problem with it in a 4-game series because stuff like that's going to happen. But in a 3-game series, I would really love for that to not happen back to back. I'd like to be bookended at best. So something to think about as we move forward into that. I really think now we have to talk a little bit about some players that are still struggling and some other performances that were noteworthy in this game and maybe important moving forward. Basketball and hockey playoffs are heating up, and there's no better way to turn your sports knowledge into real rewards time than with PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. With PrizePicks, you simply pick more or less on at least two player projections, and you're in. You can even combine players across sports, basketball, hockey, baseball, and more for your chance to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Here's what I'd be picking this week: Connor McDavid for more than one goal and Austin Matthews for more than 5 shots on goal. Seems like a pretty safe one to me. What I love is how easy it is to set your lineup in under 60 seconds. PrizePicks even runs cool promos like Taco Tuesday, where they discount player projections up to 25% for even more value, and payouts are fast, safe, and secure. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Well, Brian Reynolds is struggling still. It's been a stretch for him. And here's the thing, it's been all season. Brian Reynolds is what? Say it with me, consistent. So you know that you can expect that 275, 20 to 25 home runs, right? You know you're going to get 75 to 85 RBI. You know what Brian Reynolds is going to produce as the season rolls on. The problem is when he's consistently bad too. And he has been consistently bad this whole year. I'll read you his last 30 games, right? In his last 30 games, he's batting 203. In his last 15 games, he's batting 200. In his last 7 games, he's batting 192. They're stacked on top of each other because the bottom line is he's done the same thing all year long. He's got the same on base percentage, everything across the board. The 2 home runs are nice. They've helped his OPS not look as pathetic, but Brian Reynolds is really, really struggling early on here in the season. It could be injury related. If so, I would have some questions about why the team has purposefully continued to force him out there and sat one of their hotter bats. You know, Andrew McCutchen could take some more at bats from Brian Reynolds. If the injury is a problem, I guess all I'm saying is you don't have to play him 6 games a week then. It's admirable what he's trying to do. I'm happy that he's fighting through his injury and doing what he can and trying to contribute in the best way he can for the team. But at the end of the day, if he's not contributing more than you think Andrew McCutchen would, taking 3 or 4 of those games a week, you know, and maybe let Brian potentially heal a little faster even, maybe, and get him back out in the field quicker. And that might be another thing with Brian Reynolds that we're discounting here, and maybe we shouldn't do that. Brian Reynolds is much better as a player when he plays in the field. I think he's a guy that needs to feel like he's part of the game. So I'm not sure that DH is ever really going to be in his future. It is a hard thing to pick up on. Andrew McCutchen's talked about that a lot too. It takes a long time to adjust to how difficult it is to sit there cold and just get up and hit once every couple innings and stay engaged in the game. I think Brian Reynolds is a player that needs to be emotionally invested in the game if he's going to get anything done. Andrew McCutchen remains hot. I mean, he's hitting the ball well. He's hitting the ball hard, I should say. He's not getting results, but he's hitting the ball hard. He's still taking his walks. He's still getting on base. Last 15 games, he's hitting 250. Not too bad. Not getting as many at bats as I think he'd like to. I think he was in more of a groove a week ago or so, and I think I really would have liked to have seen them pop him in there just a little bit more at that point. It would have been good. Bart seems to still be hurt, and the Pirates are going to face a decision here pretty soon. You can retroactively put him on the IL if you think it's going to be, just a couple more days or whatever. If you think it's going to be tomorrow, which they seem to think for the last few days, you can keep going along with this for a while. I guess he's available enough that they feel like he could get back behind the dish. That has to be the case because the only other option is IKF or Adam Frazier catching. So if he's not capable of doing that, well, then they're making a big mistake by only having Henry, and they have to activate the taxi squad player, Abraham Gutierrez. There's the problem. They don't want to do the 40-man shuffle with Abraham Gutierrez unless they absolutely have to. So I think they're trying to wait as long as they can. I'm fine with it for right now as long as Henry can keep going. I actually want Henry to get a little bit of a volume of at-bats. He's starting to figure some things out. I'm by no means pretending to say that he's caught fire or something now, but he did get his first home run. He has had a hit in 3 consecutive games now. I still think I'm seeing with Henry a little bit too much of a willingness and want to try to pull balls on the outside corner of the plate. He can do it. He's got that kind of bat speed, but what it creates an awful lot is foul balls down the left field line, as opposed to balls that I think if he had a little bit more of a center right approach, he'd either be hitting hard to right center or he'd be hitting them really hard to left center. I think that's a better trajectory for Henry Davis. This way, I think he's going to wind up fouling off more home runs than he hits. So, work in progress, but the only way to do a work in progress is to do a work in progress. I don't think, and I never thought this whole season there was much more to be gained by having Henry Davis in the minors. Endy made the team because he performed just about the same as Henry Davis in spring, and he could play first base. I don't know a way around that, but I can tell you Endy's going to be injured about as long as Spencer Horwitz is going to be recovering from his injury. I bet there's going to be a weird crossroads here when it's call-up time for Horwitz as to what you do with Endy. You can't have all 3 of these guys on the roster just catching. I don't want to see them try to shove Henry somewhere untested again. And I really don't want to see them try to do it to Endy either. It's not fair to Endy as well. Endy at least can platoon at first base if he has to. He can play a little bit of outfield. I don't know that we'd want to go back to that well. And he can catch. The worst of the 3 defensive catchers is probably Joey Bart, but Joey Bart's probably the most proven of the bats. He's going to figure right into the middle of the lineup one way or another. So you can't sit the guy who's probably the worst defender. The DH spot has already been eaten up by Brian Reynolds and is sure to be eaten up by Andrew McCutchen an awful lot too. There's a little bit of room there to squeeze Bart in, I'm sure. And you need the offense real bad right now. I think we all can make that very clear. But it's something to think about. Henry being up here makes a lot of sense. Think about it. He's 25 years old. You send him back down. To what end? What are you exactly trying to get out of him? You wanted him to become an elite defender. He's got a top 5 pop time in the game. He threw out a runner tonight. He's calling good games. Every pitcher's raving about his framing. He looks like a completely different player. We wondered if he could be a catcher. He's a catcher. Henry Davis a catcher. Endy Rodriguez is a catcher. He's really got a chance to be a heck of a defender. He's got a heck of an arm. He's got an instinct. He's maybe a little bit overzealous on trying to pick guys off or stepping outside of his zone to throw a little bit more than he should. But they're both better defenders than Joey Bart. Long term, this is an interesting thing because Joey Bart is towards the back end of the arbitration arc. But again, the bat's been real valuable. And man, that's probably the most interesting position on the field. And you would love for it to be a tough decision. So I'm praying for all three of them to hit the hell out of the baseball so that we can fight about it all summer and have it be a fun conversation, right? That's all I got for you tonight, everybody. I want you to stay locked. And for all of you everydayers, man, the comments have been great. Some of you have been like direct messaging me and leaving comments on Facebook, X, Instagram, here on YouTube. I love it. Let's circle back. Make sure you answer that Bailey Falter question. Am I out of line when I say he's the best multi-year lefty the Pirates have had since Francisco Liriano? Stay locked, everybody.